What's up, guys, and welcome back to Adventure Belt. My name is Kelly. Today we are going to do a long-term review, a 4-month review of my rinse kit rack shower. Stay tuned. It's fall in Montana, and we actually got our very first snowstorm. You can see kind of a dusting in it in the background, I'm sure. And it's chilly now. And I was reminded by a follower that I really need to maintain all of the things that require any kind of pumping or filtering water. Those will get destroyed in the cold. So I'm in the process of taking care of all of that, putting that all inside. So I figured now would be a great time to do a long-term review of my rinse kit rack shower. Now I put this on in early July, late November, early July-ish time frame, and I've mainly been using it when going mountain biking to rinse off the bike with the mud, paddleboarding, getting all this river stuff off the paddle boards. And I've also been using it, which is probably not something they really advertise, but for construction. I actually ended up using it to help. I ran out of water mixing concrete from the buckets that I brought out to do concrete away from the house, and didn't want to go back and have to refill buckets. So I actually just brought the Land Cruiser over and used that to fill up the extra gallon of water I needed to mix concrete. It really is a very versatile system. I'm going to get into what I like about it, what I don't like about it, and some of the key features of the product itself. Let's get into it. This is also not my first rack, style shower. I actually had the Yakima Road Shower, I believe it was called, and there's a lot to good about it. It was one of the very first ones to come out, but it was not a good system. I think I kept it for just a few months and then I sold it off. It was just the most ungodly loud system. I had it on top of the roof of the Tacoma, and the sloshing on it was horrible. And granted, this does slosh, but it's not as nearly as bad. The Yakima was really wide and it just sloshed insanely. I think it was more of an 10 or 8 gallon system. So there's a lot of water in it. This does slosh, but it's much less. I really do wish there was a baffling system in it to kind of stop that sloshing. Even when you come to a stop, it still just kind of sloshes back and forth. You can kind of hear it, but for whatever reason, it's not nearly as annoying as the Yakima was. Accessing the rack shower on my application is very simple. I use the white knuckle off-road rock slider, get up on the tire, and I can access the back, which is how I mounted the rack shower. I mounted it so that the access port here to all the functionality of it is to the rear of it. That way it didn't get smothered with bugs and stuff like the front does. From there, it charges with a cigarette lighter. There's also USB ports back here. And other than that, it is very, very simple. All you do is you take the hose, which is supplied. It's a pressure fitting. You just push till you hear a click. Make sure it's firmly seated. Hit the power button. The running is pressurizing the whole system, and then it gives you a temperature reading of what the internal temperature of the water is. Now, I put warm water in here just recently because I might have had a little ice sloshing around and wanted to get that gone. So right now it's at 86 degrees. Now this is black plastic, and if you feel it, it is actually very warm still. In Montana, it's not going to be shower warm. It's going to be good enough to rinse yourself off if you need to warm, but I definitely wouldn't consider 86 degrees with, right now it's 45 degrees outside. It is definitely not going to be a warm shower if you're letting this heat up the water. However, if you heat the water up, you dump it in here, maybe a gallon of it into some lukewarm water, that'd be perfectly fine for a shower, but definitely not the way this sits here. Now the shower itself, you can hear it kind of run. So the pump runs every time you do it. Now I don't know, let's find out. Okay, so it's not a pressurized system. The pump is actually pumping the water out. The pump is not pressurizing the tank. It is not pressurized, which is good because I think it's better that way. I was always nervous about running around with the Yakima on top of the truck at 60 PSI, knowing that if that just hits a bump or something and it ruptures, it's just gonna probably be a catastrophic failure. It wouldn't just be a little puncture. This is, I think, a much better system. Now there is a 7-foot long hose, which makes it very convenient. You can definitely get some good distance out of this to, again, wash off bikes, take a shower, wash off paddle boards, primarily my usage for it. And the head itself, this nozzle, is really nice. I mean, you've got jet, you've got shower, you've got mist, so you want to mist yourself off and cool yourself down, center, and then flat. I mainly use jet, again, rinsing off things that are just kind of mucky. You kind of need the jet to get those dirty things off. Also, the battery on this thing is very, very long life lasting. I've charged this thing one time in 4 months. And granted, I've probably used it maybe a dozen times. I don't use it every single day, but when I do use it, the battery is always charged. I actually charged it up just for this because I didn't want it to die while I was doing this. There's also a display that tells you exactly what your battery level is, along with the water temperature inside. Very user-friendly. I really like the way it's just plug and play, not a lot to think about, not a lot to worry about. It's all right there. Real quick, let's go over some of the specs right from Rinse Kit. 5 amp hour battery, which is AGM, which is great. 5 gallon capacity, which is what I had said earlier. Apparently there's a 9-minute continuous stream of water on center on the nozzle. It's mountable on all sides, so you can mount it in whatever orientation you like, which was one of the big drawbacks to the Yakima, is it only mounted on the one side. So this is by far superior in that arena. There's an SAE plug, which I completely forgot about, which means you can hardwire it in, that we don't have to worry about charging it ever again. It is IP65 waterproof, the whole mechanism, the electronics in it, which is great. It's built tough, military grade, 5mm HDPE, withstanding the harshest outdoor conditions, which is really nice. It's very easy to use. I can vouch for that. I've filled it up with a bucket and I filled it up with a hose. Very easy to use. The nozzle is very large, easy to get, even just a 5-gallon bucket. I was dumping water into it. Very easy to do. Continuous spray, which is great. I can attest for that. I haven't had a single hiccup out of that pump. It's got dual USB ports and a 12-volt charging plug. It's a 15,000 hour rated internal pump and AGM 5 amp hour 12-volt battery with 3 to 5 years of use. Detachable 7-foot hose and 5 spray settings. And apparently there's a heater that you can get with, I don't know if it goes internal or it's an external unit. I honestly haven't really looked at that. I definitely should though, because now that I don't have the heater, I really want it and would be totally willing to test that thing out if I grab it. Now with the specs out of the way, let's talk about what I like and don't like about the Rinse Kit rack shower. What I like is it looks the part. I love the T-track system and the squareness of it. It looks very cool on a rig. The Yakima road shower looked terrible. It looked like this big bulbous thing on there. It never looked the part on the truck. Outside of the way it functioned, it just didn't look it. I never liked the way it looked. I really like the way this looks. I know it's very superficial, something to be pointed out. Also, the way that it mounts is great. I would prefer this mounting system over the Yakima mounting system every time. On the Yakima, it had the T-track, like I said before. I had to cut the bolts to get it off because the bolts stripped out the T-track, which is built into the tank itself. Where this, it's completely serviceable. The T-track, I still believe, is aluminum. It might be steel, but I doubt it because of the weight. But you can just unscrew it, you can pull it off, you can replace it. It's very serviceable. That way will give you lots of years of life with this, where the Yakima, very limited, what you can replace and service on that system. I also like how user-friendly it is. You open up that rear door, you plug it in, you hit the on button, it tells you right there exactly what you're gonna get. If the battery's getting low, it tells you. If the water temperature is cold, it tells you. There's no guesswork, and it works every time. Not a single hiccup with the pump. And like I said before, that battery, I only charged it up one time for this. Granted, I only used it maybe a dozen times, maybe a little bit more. But I never once, the battery is just, it sips energy. The system of the way the pump works, it just runs and runs and runs. No issues, no hiccups, never an issue with the pump. 5 gallons goes a long way. That's an entire jerry can. So you will definitely get a lot out of this system because it wants to work. Like the Yakima, it was a pain in the butt trying to get that thing to actually work with the pressurization and all that good stuff. This, just pumping the water out, having the battery integrated into it, it is a great system. And finally, my 2 things that I don't like about the Rinse Kit rack shower, and neither of one of them, I should say one of them is probably fixable, the other one probably not. The first one is going to be, I wish there was a baffling system in it. Again, it does slosh, but not nearly as bad. And I think it's because it's plastic and not the aluminum of the Yakima. It does not slosh nearly as bad as the Yakima. But granted, there is sloshing. So when you hit the brakes, you stop, and it just kind of sloshes back and forth until it settles, which takes a little while. and it being right above your head, you hear it. Again, it's not terrible, but it is there and it's noticeable. The other thing is the price. I think the Yakima, I think that was like 300 bucks, and that's just a tank. This has an integrated battery. It's got a pump, you know, it's got the displays. It tells you the temperature, so there's obviously sensors in it. There's a lot going on with this system, so I understand the price the way it's at. I think it retails for $550 and it's on sale for like $485, I want to say right now. So I understand the price, and there's not a lot you can do about something that is so optioned up like this is. Again, if this was just a tank and it had a rudimentary mounting system with one bracket and it had a bicycle pump, they could probably drop that price down to 300 bucks, I have no doubt. However, you start adding in pumps and gauges and electronics and batteries, you're going to increase the price, and it's completely understandable, but it does hurt just a little bit when you hit that send button. All right, guys, I really hoped you enjoyed that video. If you did, be sure to hit that thumbs up, be sure to subscribe, and I will see you guys next time.